I think at this stage, all roads lead to MTD. I looked it up. In September, I'll have been writing about MTD for 10 years. I mean,
Wow.
what am I doing with my life?
Oh my word. MTD's fascinating. And I feel like there's a lot more movement this year with firms.
It's comparable time to the last time when it was due to land. The get up and go is there at the moment. We're seeing a tidal wave of firms coming to us.
There's a problem that hits, say, COVID, and we just say, we'll take on the burden, we'll do the extra work, support our clients. But this is something that's not short term, this is long term here. We have to change our model.
iplicit, the cloud accounting platform for mid-market businesses, has been named as one of Europe's fastest growing companies with a compound annual growth rate of an impressive 104.3%.
Mimo and FreeAgent have integrated.
Indi, maybe for anyone that isn't really familiar with this kind of like concept of embedded finance, could you just explain a little bit more about this? Because where does the lending come from? How does that kind of work? Hello and welcome to another episode of the Digitals and a Cruel World podcast. I'm delighted to say that we are sponsored on this current series by FreeAgent, and I am, as always, joined by Ryan and Indi, fresh off the back of a busy few weeks, being here, there, and everywhere. But Ryan, what's happened to the hair, mate? You were delightfully hairy last time I saw you.
It was fleeting, John. It was very odd when I took it off, though. It felt like something had been removed from me. I didn't recognise myself for a few seconds.
It's like a loss of insulation. It's like taking off a jumper. Is that what you're saying?
I am colder now. Yeah, it's. I don't. You go outside, you really notice the breeze.
Yeah. Well, at least you brought out the solar panel for the sex machine again, so this is good. Good news.
Yeah. And on that note, I can see Indi grimacing. How are you, Indi?
Oh God, it's just painful sometimes. I really liked you with your hair. I thought it was a shame to see the loss of that. I don't want to see.
Yeah, you made a very stark point on how better I looked with it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's hard, isn't it? I was surprised. And I think that those follically challenged men look quite good, but you looked better with hair.
To be fair, I'm with you, Indi. I was there was a small man crush developing when he was wearing that wig.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
I think it's better I don't have it then.
From the amount of times that we sometimes bicker and squabble, Ryan, I have to admit, I felt like, that man, I didn't want to fight with him. Yeah, I want.
So,
wanted to hear an opinion.
So, he's a more endearing character. He's more friendly. He's got a nicer outlook on life.
Yes, he didn't feel
just that kind of demeanor. That one that says he's not going to bitch and moan when you're 20 minutes late or something.
Yeah, that's sort of
19
minutes.
Or be anally retentive about it.
Well, that is me.
Yeah, that is you. And, for those that didn't listen to the previous episode, give a little listen back. But if you don't, mine is very pedantic on his timings. If you're going to be there early and be 19 minutes early to being early.
He's very demanding, actually. He's quite a needy person. I think we've established this. I mean, he wants verbose responses on WhatsApp, and he wants us to actually do stuff for the podcast and make it feel like he's not the only one doing things. I don't know what it's incredibly demanding.
John, too.
What a diva!
God.
This could go down as bullying.
Yeah, to me.
Well, it could, but we don't have a HR department, so screw you, Ryan.
On that note, let's move into app news.
I'm kicking off this week Adfin, which is the fintech that is working very much in the accounts receivable space, has just raised €8 million to take its platform to the next level. So for accountants, Adfin offers a solution to the age-old issue of getting clients paid faster. Where have you heard this before? However, it is unique to this time. So it does it with more accuracy and a little less hassle from the way that they have come about their business model. So there's been a lot of fleeting apps in the past, and this one has taken a more integrated approach. It consolidates multiple payment tools. So we're talking direct debits, we're talking bank transfers, we're talking cards, and we're talking even open banking into a single platform. It reduces the need for multiple systems that you would otherwise have to manage across each platform. And so, technically should cut some costs in theory. But imagine the use cases automating everything from invoice sending to payment reminders by email, WhatsApp, SMS, all synced with Xero or QuickBooks Online accounts. But here's where Adfin really stands out for accountants. It's not just about the speeding up of the payments, it's about the accuracy and control. So Adfin Protect also shields your clients from chargebacks, which is a common frustration in the direct debit transactions. So you don't get these surprising losses that occur. There's some AI-driven features that allow the clients to optimize when and how they send payment reminders. So it seems to cover all bases and is really about making sure that accounts receivable piece is across the board taken care of, depending on whatever the mechanism or channel or platform is. So there's no more chasing payments manually. I think this sounds really great. And I know we've seen some come and go within this space that have been on the receivables component, but what are our thoughts, guys, on how well-placed Adfin is? They were on the ski trip, right, John, recently? So you must have had some insights from them.
Yeah, Tom from the team there was on the ski trip, and we had a good good week spending time with some of the guys from the Adfin team. And look, I mean, I think huge congratulations firstly for them for the fundraise. I mean, this is always exciting times, and it probably comes at a good time because we're starting to see that a few people are falling out of love with GoCardless and Stripe and PayPal and other things like that. And again, as is often the case, we're kind of looking for centralized portals to do everything in, and that's kind of what Adfin are offering to deliver to the market. So we'll be interested to see what they do with the money and how they're going to go around investing that. And I also know, having worked quite closely with them recently, that they're looking for further integrations into products, not just in the finance space, but things that are relevant to accountants. So I think they just announced their Socket integration fairly recently. And I know they're looking at PM solutions as well. So that's probably a direction of travel for them to land and expand in this market even further.
Yeah, and they're coming in disrupting and getting lots of traction. And another, I guess, business that has been disrupting and getting lots of traction is Allica Bank, and they have recently launched specialist buy-to-let mortgages. So they've set an ambitious target of lending 100 million in the specialist buy-to-let mortgage space. And they're doing that with up to 75% loan to value from 250,000 to 10 million pounds in what they're loaning. Competitive pricing. I mean, they've stated as competitive pricing, 5.8% fixed, although you can get discounts if they're much larger loans. So coming in and trying to do something quite new for them. Obviously, you've got a lot of lenders in the in the specialist buy-to-let mortgage space, but for them it's very new. And as ever with anything that's Allica, they're setting a big target and they're going after it hard.
Absolutely.
This is a bit different for them because I didn't expect them to go down towards buy-to-let. And I say down carefully, but it's just going from where the focus was commercial properties and therefore quite, the businesses that they were targeting, in particular, the ones that we heard and spoke about were those businesses that say had hit a certain point in their life cycle, a few million, they have a couple of directors, so it makes them a little bit more complex. I really thought they would have focused more on targeting those businesses with other types of lending products rather than going into buy-to-let mortgages, which just seems like a very different type of market and the dynamics of the customer profile. So what does that tell us? They're focusing more on building up the number of types of businesses or customers that have current accounts with them because they want to go after a much wider market, perhaps?
So Nick Baker, the Chief Commercial Officer at Allica Bank, has basically come out and said that this is a reaction to the market. So they've got a number of brokers that are demanding this level of funding that they're using, and they've said, we'd like you to do this. And they're a size now that they can, I guess, be more adaptable to their customer base, their partner base. And essentially that's what they've done. They've listened and now launch something that helps fit with that.
Sure, but the underwriting of that still needs to happen so it's justified at scale, right? So when you're talking about commercial property, it's a certain value of lending. It's worth it because the amount that you're lending and the type of business that you can then operationally you're able to maintain the heads that you require around the table to underwrite that. Whereas this is then, it requires more automated of the underwriting process because you're going to much smaller, different size of the market, like you said, from 250,000. So I'm guessing that they must have implemented a lot of different technology into it to be able to improve that underwriting process for those businesses at the moment, which I think, when we spoke to Allica, I guess they weren't at that point. So it's a great evolution if that's the case, because I know when we were talking about the commercial properties, they were talking about reducing the friction within that market so that you went down from 3 months or something to make a decision to like, I don't know, a week or 2 weeks we're talking about. So has there been any news from them on how long it takes to be able to make a decision on it? I think we should keep ourselves close to that because I'm quite intrigued to see how it goes moving from the types of customers that we were talking about before.
I mean, my take on this is that, if you're targeting like the SME market, which is, their go-to place in terms of, the types of businesses that they're going after, is that quite often, particularly the more successful owner-managed businesses, they will have other interests, and quite often those other interests will be in property, and so for me, it seems like a next logical step is like, if I can help the business with banking and lending, then why not help the individual banking and lending as well?
It's just super interesting to then see Allica have got there quicker than some of the other neobanks that we've seen in this space. They've been there for years and haven't managed to deploy deposits in the same way.
Yeah, agreed. Anyway, another little bit of news from Allica. Let it never been said that the podcast crew will take credit for someone else's hard work, but I think this is entirely down to us because Allica have rebranded themselves and put the orange bowler hat, which was always fashionably worn by our very own presenter Ryan Piercy, front and center in their new branding. So they've got rid of the old shield. They're really doubling down on the bowler hat, the orange bowler hat with really lovely, like dark blue, dark blue background, and really pushing this out so that they look distinctive in the marketplace. I think it looks really, really cool. And this is all backed up with some more news around the fact that, they are looking to build on their status as the UK's fastest growing fintech and gain 10% market share in the SME business banking market. And, as we just talked about, they are one of the key ones focused in on this marketplace, really, really quickly growing, has 4 billion in customer deposits and lent out 3 billion. And maybe, Indi, that answers your previous question, is like, they've managed to suck in loads of deposits and then redeploy them and get that really working for them. So anyway, here's to more bowler hat wearing from our very own Mr. Piercy.
Who would have thought that my fashion sense would have led into a company rebrand?
Oh God, Ryan.
Who would have thought?
Yeah.
Who would have thought? Obviously, it was because of that.
They've just replaced their marketing department with ChatGPT.
On the last episode, you wore your hair. Maybe this episode, you really should have just worn the bowler hat.
I probably should have. It doesn't really fit over the headset, though. That's the problem.
Missed trick. Anyway. Oh, well, right. So on to something different. GoCardless has partnered with Pipe to offer SMEs a new way to access capital financing directly from within the GoCardless platform. The partnership has been designed to help small businesses, especially those struggling with late payments, secure the working capital they need to grow. So super interesting. Luke Royal, CEO of Pipe, was also someone that was responsible for and part of the senior leadership that was involved in building QuickBooks Capital. And he's got quite a strong view on how they can work with companies like GoCardless in using that type of financing information, which in the past they use. Many of the providers in this space require personal guarantees or credit checks. GoCardless customers can now access cash advances in 1 to 2 days without those hurdles. And this is because they're using the data plugging it into things like, I don't know, like if you're a hairdresser or if you're a certain type of vendor, like a dentist practice, you usually don't have the same kinds of access to capital. They're plugging into the systems that see the booking system in order to know how much they can lend to you. Is particularly impact for micro businesses, and they're saying ethnic minority owned businesses, which face challenges due to the limited credit history, low credit scores, or unpredictable volumes or transactions that come through that business. So think of like your barbershops, etc. The new service, Capital Powered by Pipe, follows a successful pilot which advanced 13.3 million to 844 GoCardless merchants. So I think for accountants, this is a game changer, provides those micro and small businesses with faster access to cash flow without the traditional kind of personal guarantees, red tape, etc., that allows the business owner to have more confidence in backing their own future, rather than struggling with slow payments in any way. So I think this is a great innovation, especially given that Luke was one of the key people to make sure that QuickBooks Capital in the US really took off. I am sold on this one. I think it's great.
Indi, maybe for anyone that isn't really familiar with this kind of like concept of embedded finance, could you just explain a little bit more about this? Because where does the lending come from? How does that kind of work? And is this going to challenge maybe the likes of iWalker and people like that, for example?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, in this case, I don't know if they've taken on, I'm pretty sure, having spoken to Luke, they deployed balance sheet on this one. So we had a good debate around this because obviously I work with investors where we don't deploy balance sheet. But Pipe, in this case, deployed their balance sheet to be able to advance the money. And that's because they've assessed the risk in that way. They've underwritten the risk. So in this case, I guess the mechanism to make sure that you can access it is through GoCardless. I think that's where the deep embedding of financing that we're talking about is just about being able to connect with the person at the point of need, at the pain point, to then advance the money. And that's what, for me, it is a really good example of how to connect in someone that's obviously trying to speed up the payment flow and underwrite the risk in real time, so that the smaller micro businesses can get access to a small amount of capital on working capital front.
Yeah, and just quickly, I guess they'll have access to their customer payment data as a consequence of GoCardless, and GoCardless do also have some connections into open banking as well.
Right.
So there's just kind of a lot of information there, isn't there, in terms of reliability?
And that's why it's super interesting for these two giants to partner together. In particular, Luke, who has obviously been critical and understands capital from like an accounting tech perspective. Because like I said, we don't have QuickBooks Capital in the UK, but I think it's a game changer if they were to launch it.
Super interesting. Let's see if I've got anything that's as interesting. Well, we talked about Mimo earlier, and Mimo and FreeAgent have integrated. Now, if you've been listening to any of our podcasts recently, FreeAgent have been integrating into loads of the big tech players in the space. It's been crazy, really, for them. Their app marketplace, their app store is now thriving. An integration between FreeAgent and Mimo enables users to make batch supplier payments in a single click. It optimizes cash flow with built-in credit lines, also simplifies approvals and cross-team collaboration, and auto-reconciles payments to make sure that your books are up to date. Now, this is quite a deep integration, I guess, especially on launch. Sometimes you'll have more testing the water and it builds up over time, but a good deep integration between FreeAgent and Mimo from day one. And then I've also got something from Translucent, who I guess after releasing reporting, you had additional tracking categories inside the system. They've now jumped the gun over some of their competitors and launched prepayments and deferred revenue apps inside the system. Now, for any of these multi-entity period end tools such as Translucent, this has been something we've been crying out for a long time. Managing prepayments, managing deferred revenue in the core finance ledgers is challenging. Having an app that can automate some of this is a big win. So what are they doing? Well, essentially, the way it's going to work is it's going to be automatically identifying prepayments, which doesn't explain how it's doing and does make me question what data needs to be inside your general ledger to pick this up. But if you're already like identified it, pulled it in the system, you're then it's picking up or prompting how that should be deferred. You are reviewing, editing that, and then once you've done it, it automatically works out the journals to push back, exporting this also into Excel to maintain along with pre-existing processes. So I'll push it back into the finance system as well. I think this is going to be a potential game changer for the likes of Translucent, because it broadens way beyond just the multi-entity, but now into single entity, which is a big driver for period end. It's a big pain point. It's one that needs to be solved.
I completely agree. And I think it's sort of like the next area of kind of competition that we're going to see in the market. I mean, Mayday have got some prepayment stuff here that we're already seeing, but not deferred revenue, although I know that they're working on that as well. You've got products like FlowRev in the market, which offer prepayments and deferred revenue and have done for a long time, although their UI and UX is quite clunky. So I think it's fascinating to see that we've got this from Translucent. Ironically, I was having a conversation with someone saying there's only really one player in the market, which is FlowRev, about 2 weeks ago, and then I saw the announcement from Michael saying that they just launched this. I was like, oh, now there's two, excellent. And then Mayday came along and did it, and it's like, oh, now there's three, and there's at least one more in the market about to come out. I guess the key thing about this is how they drive those prepayments and deferred revenue calcs, because some products are driven only by bills and invoices, cropping up in Xero, for example, and that works really well in certain circumstances. But in others, for example, if you're dealing with like an e-commerce business where that data might be pushed in from a payment provider, you might be dealing with like receive money and spend money transactions, which also need to be captured and looked at. That may or may not be there. I don't know, for example, in Translucent, if that's present. I know that you can do it in FlowRev, but you have to speak to the team nicely to enable that functionality. But if that's there in Translucent out of the box, that's great. If not, something else for Michael to work on. And equally the same for David Tuck and the team at Mayday, and anyone else who fancies having a go in the prepayments and the deferred revenue market, because I'm sure there's going to be more. I have an announcement from the guys at CAS 360. So this might be a product that's not that familiar to UK listeners, but they have a product that's come out of Australia and New Zealand, kind of connected to another business called BGL Corporate Solutions. So you might be more familiar with BGL. But Ashley Barker, who's the business development manager here in the UK, pushed this out on LinkedIn a few days ago, just to say that CAS 360 is now officially launched in the UK. To be fair, they have had a fairly soft launch prior to that, so some people have been able to have a bit of a play around with the product and utilize it. And this is allowing people to do company secretarial. So this is the kind of software that they're offering out into the market. And I guess it comes at an interesting time for the market, given that Inform Direct was bought by Bright Group not so long ago, and they're sort of going through that mini rebranding, and obviously then being assimilated into the wider Bright suite of products. And I guess that maybe some Inform Direct customers might be trembling a little bit about what that Bright acquisition means. And now you've got a ready-made alternative if you wanted to go out and have a look at it and consider it. It's been very heavily beta tested, and I can vouch for the team as well, because I've been working with them for a wee while now, and great products and great people.
Wow, that's a ringing endorsement. I've got some news from iplicit, our lovely sponsor. iplicit, the cloud accounting platform for mid-market businesses, has been named by the Financial Times, the FT, as one of Europe's fastest growing companies, securing a spot on FT 1000 list for the second year in a row, with a compound annual growth rate of an impressive 104.3% between 2020 and 2023. iplicit ranks among the top 50 UK businesses, which I think cements its place in the UK's hypergrowth landscape in this space. Obviously, we've known iplicit for a great number of years. Founded back in 2019, they've experienced triple-digit revenue growth for 6 consecutive years through their cloud solution to businesses, outgrowing basic platforms or dealing with outdated on-premises systems. So for those businesses that have again, wanted to upgrade, sit in that mid-market space, perhaps were too big for Xero, too small for some of the enterprise level, but obviously want to benefit from certain specific types or features, the company has really filled a very great gap in the market and achieved 113% year-on-year growth. Currently serves over 38,000 daily users across 2,000 organizations. As we know, as we reported on earlier in this year, which was not that long ago, they received a £25 million investment from One Peak, and they're poised for further growth, targeting 50 million ARR by 2028. So the company is looking for a number of strategic key hires this year and continues to push forward with their product development roadmap. Great news, great win for iplicit. Really pleased for all of the team. And obviously we've seen some movers and shakers that have happened in the iplicit team. So well done to the whole team.
Yeah, indeed. Congratulations to the iplicit guys. And I saw Matt and a couple of the other guys from the team last week, the week before, at Alternative Events. And great to catch up with them. And I'm not quite sure if they're going to be at Fab, but we'll see. And it's going to be a busy season, I'm sure, for everyone involved. Last but not least, I have an update from Expensify, which has launched into their product a travel management tool that it was announced last year and is in a waiting list period for a reasonable amount of time, and then it's been fully released to the market just towards the tail end of February. And it's available no matter what platform you use, so through the web, mobile, and desktop apps. And it allows you to book and manage flights, hotels, rail, and car rentals all within the platform. And as a business, you get to load in all of your corporate travel policies and things, just to make sure that when people are booking things, it stays in compliance with the various travel arrangements and stuff, which makes managing that side of things really, really simple. But I guess what's really cool about having it in the Expensify platform is that's a place you're going to be doing your expenses, and you're going to have your corporate cards and stuff in there already. So you've got a whole connected ecosystem of doing everything all in one place. And I must admit, this is something that we as an organization at Beaver and Shutters are currently exploring, because we don't have something like this set up, and we're trying to just make sure the management of expenses is a little bit easier. And for sure, we're seeing more and more travel as we kind of come out of this tail end of the COVID and hybrid working situation, and people are definitely wanting to do more one-to-one face-to-face meetings and things. And I guess that's going to be interesting to kind of balance out with our eco credentials and requirements, as well as we sort of try to get to net zero in the next few years, because that's going to be a really tricky balance to kind of balance out. What do you want to do? Do you want to travel for a face-to-face meeting, which might be on the train or a plane, or do you want to do it via Teams or Zoom or whatever, and obviously lower the impact, but both from an eco point of view, but potentially from a business and relationship point of view. So interesting times ahead, I'm sure.
Yeah, this one's a very big market, and I've spent a bit of time getting to know the dynamics of this travel market industry, online travel agencies with the travel management companies, and the way that the bookings happen, the clearing mechanisms, the time to payment. I think expenses is interesting with it, because the one that's going to win is not just the expense management tool, but those that then are able to bridge the working capital, because you need to obviously prepay or load, or somebody needs the ability to make those bookings on cards, which either you need to preload with funds, or we've seen, we have these cards that have like a certain amount loaded onto them and kept aside, but then that means the card can't be used for anything else. So, and you can't issue lots of these cards. So given that I've kind of been really in this space for a few years, I'm also seeing there's a resurgence now of different card companies are actually they come up with a mechanism for adding credit to the card for a certain duration of time for specific purchases, just like this, where it's travel, and so it's a certain bin. That means that you can use it so long as it's with like a kind of a hotel booking, or for instance, like planes and trains and hotels. But yeah, that you can then assign credit just for that type of purchase, which speeds up the flow. And therefore you don't have lots of people that are either trying to track it on their own cards, because in this day and age, it's a nightmare. We really don't want to do that. But the business doesn't need to take the risk on it as well, because it's also difficult to then manage your working capital. So I think this is a really prominent area for growth. As you said, the world opens up, and as workforces become more remote and more mobile, that we're going to see a lot more expenses related to this, that we would like to get the working capital released for quicker.
Yeah, I'd agree. And so much better to have this in one platform where you've got your policies in place along with the payments, rather than maybe someone booking something which is outside a policy and then you have to have an awkward conversation about how you then deal with it.
True. Doesn't happen to me often, but true.
We're lucky enough to be joined by Tony Stevenson from FreeAgent today. I'm going to dive a little bit into making tax digital for income tax, because, you know, we've not talked about that enough as accountants for the last, 10 years or however long it's been mentioned and launching for. So what's your experience of FreeAgent with what firms are doing for MTD for income tax?
So there are some firms that are fully kind of ready for this. All their firms are digitally enabled. All their clients digitally enabled. They've not got sort of tons of work to do in terms of getting the message out there. It's just a case of I'll already use this platform, and this will be a different filing regime for you. But ultimately, what you'll see won't change a huge amount, because you're already on some sort of digital focused platform. Right the way through to the other end of the spectrum of they're still sort of kind of getting ready to get ready. There's a huge spectrum of readiness out there.
There's been some rumors that it may be delayed, but I think that's more hope than expectation at this point. And I've talked to quite a lot of firms ranging from small to large, and some, they've gone, yes, we've got a plan, we know exactly what we're doing. And as you say, there's some that are like, it's on our roadmap for this year to have a look at. And I'm quite scared for those firms that have not really looked at a product yet or know what they're doing. But how many that you speak to, or those that FreeAgent speak to, what do you think the split is? Do you think you've got a proportion here that are just putting it off?
There is 100%. But I would say that this comparable time to the last time when it was due to land, the get up and go is there at the moment. We're seeing a tidal wave of firms coming to us and saying they're in probably one of two places, which is we kind of know what it is, and we sort of we're ready to go, and we've already sort of started thinking about this, and actually we just kind of looking at solutions, and we're working out, does that fit for us? Does that fit for us? Is this kind of how we want to rock it? And then there's sort of we kind of know it exists, but we don't really know what it is that exists and quite how that works. And actually sometimes you do get firms that come to you and say, I know, we know, and then we run through it and they're like, oh, I didn't actually know you needed a separate set of filings if you had a sole trade business, a landlord's business, and heaven forbid it was VAT registered as well, and you need another set of quarterly filings, right? So and then we're doing these MTD consultations at the moment, so we sit with the firm and take them through what's happening. We've got this kind of slide that lays out where the work falls, and as he says, because you're going to have that sort of transition period where you're doing the tax return for the previous year, 2024, 2025 one, and then the quarters are going to kick in for the next year, kind of at the similar time that you're doing that work. So how are you going to bill for that? Because if you're billing monthly, you're doing double the work at the same time, so there's lots to consider when you start to kind of lift the lid and get into the nuts and bolts of it.
Agreed. I think the software bit is probably ironically the easier bit. It's the change management with clients that's the big problem. So what I would like to know, Tony, is where do you see the biggest issues for firms? What should they not be putting off at this stage? What's the key priority when they're going through this MTD for income tax consideration? So
I think actually you're absolutely right. So I was fortunately let loose a little while ago to do a couple of training sessions, and I showed them the solution, and they both kind of said, paraphrasing, but pretty much the same thing of is that it? So I just push that button and it files the quarter, and I push that button and it files the next quarter. And if your software provider isn't making it straightforward, then there's probably a better one for you. And actually then the questions then start to go okay, so how many of my clients is this affecting? Because obviously we've got the limits that come down over time. Who should I be tackling first? Do I need to put anyone on the beta? How do I segment those clients into the right, into core or not core, or into, what order do I do them in? And then there's the question of I've got to get them onto a bit of software. And then when you start to kind of break it down, it starts to kind of look clearer, but also you get a sort of sense of the size of the challenge. So often that's sort of getting started and working out how I'm going to persuade someone that just brings in a box of stuff once a year to go onto a digital system that's potentially refused that in the past, on the basis of cost, which isn't too much of a concern for us. Obviously, we've got the free offering with NatWest, and that sort of idea of having a bank feed and drawing the data in as you go is it's quite a big step for a client that's just always just bought that box in. And you might still be able to do that, but that's going to cause quite a bit of more pickup and put down for your accountant or bookkeeper as you go. So
a lot more cost because of that. So the fees go up. So it's about educating them into how do they become more effective and efficient in what they do, and therefore keep their costs as low as reasonable. Because there's still potentially additional fees that go alongside this. An accountant shouldn't be taking on the burden of it. I've seen some amazing LinkedIn posts over the last couple of months, which are basically saying, look, we're so used to it. There's a problem that hits, say, COVID, and we just say, we'll take on the burden. We'll do the extra work, support our clients. But this is something that's not short term. This is long term here. We have to change our model. And as long as everyone is doing that, then the clients have to kind of adapt to that. They have to take on the work themselves or work more dynamically with their clients. But so I did want to pick up on, as you said, about the whole different filings with HMRC for whether it's sole trade or as property, for example. And my understanding is that FreeAgent kind of has this lot covered. Is that correct?
Yes. So it's built into our product already. It was the first time around, and we've just kind of picked up where we left off and just made the tweaks we needed to. So anyone who wants to see it, just kind of get in touch. We're happy to take you through it. It's not switched on live in the product in the wild yet, but we can take you through it in the product. And we have taken the approach of if you're a sole trader, you'll get a sole trade license, and if you're a landlord, you get a landlord license. And if you've got both of those, you'll also have 2 licenses so that you can keep the two things separate and clear. And you don't have to kind of worry about sort of like, is this cost that come through that bank account? Which one does it relate to? Do I need to split it because they're separate? So, we're really happy with where we are. We're building the stuff as it gets released, essentially. So we're sort of fully up to speed, and everyone's welcome to come and have a look at the product live in FreeAgent. So
nice one. And I guess what I've seen, as you kind of alluded to, is you've got those specialist landlord or property management systems that are ready for MTD. You've got the specialist ones that are for sole trade as well. And you do have these ends of spectrum where you've got a really advanced property management portfolio. That's the only thing the client does. They're really attuned. They should have this dedicated system. Same for the sole trade business. But a lot of businesses, a lot of clients will have a pool. They've diversified. They've managed their income really effectively, probably from a great advisor, a great accountant that's been telling them to do so. And they need a system that can handle both, but on a more simple level. And that's where I feel your product fits in really well.
Yeah, I think when this was announced, obviously it's a burden for the industry in terms of kind of getting set up for it and stuff. But we always felt like we were really well placed in order to be able to help those sole traders, and then obviously we built the landlord product specifically for this market. And that's become sophisticated for an accidental landlord or occasional landlord. So you've got 2 or 3 properties, maybe the properties are split ownership and the ownership's different between property 1, 2 and 3, and you can handle that now from a recent release. So we've always done everything through the lens of how can we make this complicated thing simple. And if we can't make that complicated thing simple, then maybe that is for the tools that tackle slightly larger businesses. But that ceiling of complicated things into simple has got higher and higher and higher. So we feel like we're exactly right. We feel like we're in a really good spot to cater for our original market, but also sort of slightly more complicated setups as well. So we're good to go.
Well, that sounds like a perfect spot to, I guess, find out how would people, if they want to know a little bit more about FreeAgent can help them with making tax digital for income tax, how do they find out, mate?
Well, so we're talking about it at DAS. I'm making my main stage debut, so I'm pretty buzzed about that. Thank you to the guys, DAS, Stan, James, and Jordan. So we'll be talking about that with a panel with Russell Frayne, Sean from Danes, and Stuart Pedler from Westcotts. We'll be getting into it all. We're doing 2 talks on it, Accountex as well. We've got a whole ton of resources and things that you can access, for free through the FreeAgent website. But if you want a bit more detail, there's a couple of things you could do. We've just hosted a webinar last week where we had several hundred folks along to come and have a look at it. That's on demand. You can go and have a look at it, look at the FreeAgent product live. But I'd urge you to kind of get in touch, and one of our team will be more than happy to arrange a consultation, and we can take you through, like, look, this is what we're seeing in the market. This is kind of where we would want to start, and these are the things you need to know to get cracking. So we got you covered. Tons of different stuff.
Nice one. Thanks, Tony. People know where to check it out now.
Absolutely.
So I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Tom Herbert as technology editor at Accounting Web, and everyone in the world will have seen Tom on LinkedIn with his regular updates, the tech updates that come out on a Friday, and obviously the writing that goes on the website and things like that. And I've managed to shuffle him off to the side of Fab on the second day, just have a quick catch up and see how things are going. So Tom, what's your reflections on the last day and a half so far?
First of all, utter relief. You can see the registration data. You're like, yeah, lots of people have registered, but then, at least in my head, it's like that doesn't translate into actual warm bodies queuing outside until you open the shutter doors and they all come in. It's like, phew, people have showed up, and yeah, they seem to have had a nice time. Lots of interesting conversations. So, it's been great. It's been great.
Awesome. And any significant highlights? I mean, obviously there's been a couple of announcements around funding and things like that, which you covered in your video yesterday. But any particular things that caught your eye from maybe some of the talks or sessions that you've seen?
I think at this stage, all roads lead to MTD. It kind of is that technology vortex, isn't it? We've seen it a few times before, haven't we? Where we get close to the deadline and then it gets kicked down the road again, it gets delayed. But I think all the
We're on the precipice, right?
Yeah, all the conversations kind of just get dragged down. And, when we've had these fallow years where MTD's a couple of years away, suddenly 1,000 practice flowers bloom and you get interesting stuff around automation and workflow, or, lots of stuff going on in the payment space. That's fantastic. But yeah, I mean, I looked it up. In September, I'd have been writing about MTD for 10 years. I mean,
wow.
What am I doing with my life?
Oh my word! Yeah, what have you been doing with your lifetime? Blimey. And I mean, I guess are we maybe on a turning point here in terms of we've obviously got the MTD agenda like really kicking off now. We still don't know about what's going to happen with MTD for corporation tax, of course, but also now got the e-invoicing consultation from the government, which seems to be looking like it's going to dovetail almost into the VAT side of MTD as well. So are we kind of like on the precipice of maybe seeing two divergent things happening here, where government and regulation is going to demand change for businesses, which is going to require probably more technology. And also, of course, we've got the whole AI debate and then what's going on with that, which is also going to put demands on businesses and accountants and bookkeepers as well, right?
I think it's a fascinating, I'm reluctant to kind of lump MTD and invoicing in together, but they're quite complementary. And I think the record keeping that MTD will encourage, the e-invoicing side of things that will hopefully help with sort of accuracy and the billing side of things, hopefully will sort of encourage more software off the back of that and more interesting tech developments, and maybe lay a sort of stronger foundation for the AI tools that are coming in. We were at a session yesterday where we were talking about like tools like Digits, right? The AGL, autonomous general ledger software that was going to come in and sort of blow the profession away. But yeah, it's really interesting. I think I was looking at Fab 26, like that's going to be 3 weeks away from MTD mandation, so I think that's going to be an absolute bum fight, I think. But actually, Fab 27 is going to be absolutely fascinating to see.
A good reflective moment, right?
Yeah. What's coming next? So yeah.
And just quickly, I mean, what comes next for you after this, apart from a lie down in a darkened room for a few days just to sort of reset and recover? I mean, we're obviously in the midst of event season, right? And so it's going to be a busy few weeks and months for everyone involved.
No, absolutely. And I'm going to be, putting together my notes, sort of trying to form formulate an idea of what it all means. So it's quite deep and meaningful, isn't it? But I'm going to be at DAS, I'm going to be at Accountex, and all the sort of events that circle around there. So no, really looking forward to sort of chatting to people about that and what they've made of it all. So
Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you very much, Tom. Thank you for taking a little bit of time off to the side, and I'm sure you want to carry on walking the room and meeting more people and stuff. So thanks for taking the time, and always, as I said, look forward to seeing what you're writing about and talking about in the sector. It's just great to be kept in debate. It's a pleasure. Thanks, Jim. Cheers. I'm joined by Ian Cooper, Head of Operations at FYI, and here on the very palatial stand as well. I mean, look at this. It's very exciting, right? And look, we're getting towards the end of Fab on day 2, and how's it been going? How's it gone for you guys?
We've really enjoyed it. Yeah, we weren't at Fab last year, so this was the first time. We've been working closely with Accounting Web. Love their audience for all their quirks, but no, it's been really good. And having a conference outside London is nice. One, it's easier for me to get to up the motorway from Exeter, but second, it attracts a different audience. So the footfall's different. It's not as crazy and chaotic as maybe some of the other conferences where there's a just electric vibe, but the conversations are more thoughtful, more considered, and I'm not sure, but I'm thinking that the people that come here actually do a lot more research, or they do research before they come, because we're not like, oh, what does FYI do? It's more like, oh, we've heard about FYI, we understand your document management, but what does the automation mean? Or what do you do with practice management? There seems to have been additional research. I've been pleasantly surprised that there's been firms of all sizes here. Some of the biggest sort of household names in accountancy. So it's been great.
Yeah. And like you say, been a busy couple of days really. I don't know if you've had a chance to sort of walk around and take everything in, or if you took any of the talks in, but was there anything that sort of piqued your interest at all?
We've got a number of connected apps here. So we've got an ecosystem now, curated ecosystem. We've got 46 with socket integration this morning. We've got 46 integrated apps in our ecosystem, and we've got 4 of them that are here. So we've been having a really great sort of time being able to share information between, because the ability now to carve out a niche and go quite narrow with your service with a piece of software is possible, because integrating workflows becomes easier. But in terms of the highlight, yes, chatting to our ecosystem buddies, but some of the talks great as well.
Yeah. And I guess there's been a huge amount of talk about MTD almost inevitably, and I know that's not really as something that you're trying to fix, but with your automations and stuff, is that something that people are maybe coming to you and saying, how do we think about changing our processes for next year, and maybe making it a little bit easier to manage the huge ramp up in scale that MTD is going to bring?
Yes. For that long question. MTD's fascinating, and I feel like there's a lot more movement this year with firms. And I was speaking to somebody else recently, and they said, are you finding there's a little bit of a vacuum in the PM space? But it's quite the opposite.
Right.
I think firms know that they can use multitude of different apps to be able to collect the data. Yeah. But they see that the ability to create processes is where they really create a consistent data set, streamline processes. So we're seeing a massive demand from MTD, from communicating for that first wave by segmenting your client list. We do all of that, emailing your clients, collecting data with forms. It's perfect for us. But then right the way through to, whilst it's some time away, for the actual quarterly processing of that work, again in the sweet spot with the automation engine.
Fascinating. I mean, obviously you guys launched kind of like more of that PM functionality at Accountex last year. I remember I was there for the launch, so almost 12 months in, and what more should we expect from FYI in that respect, or what other features are you maybe considering or going to be throwing out into the market?
A lot. We don't slow down. We're up. Our headcount now is 80. So I joined 2.5 years ago with 35 people in the team. Our largest client in the UK went live for Elite Practice Management last Monday. So that's Wilson Partners with a lot of users with one of the PE funds. So we're really happy with that. in terms of functionality that's coming, that you'll see more integrations coming. We've got some other cool ones which almost provides that end-to-end full suite from onboarding, managing the compliance through to the final part. So that's exciting. But electronic forms, we've got forms written into our platform, so we'll be able to go and capture any data that's required, and that's massively important for that quarterly collection of data. So that's a big one. We're publishing to our Power BI app in the next few weeks, so that's another big one. We've currently got 4 or 5 firms featuring that. But you realise with practice management, suddenly everybody wants a report that you haven't got. Like as soon you write a report. So what we do, keep the architecture really open, and allow people to go and get the data however
Give
they
them
want.
the data and they can do what they want with it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And isn't that such, isn't that really like indicative of like how a good practice management solution should really be that like hub of the wheel and let the spokes, all of the things that come off the end of that, really go around the outside.
Absolutely. And that plays nicely into our big release of the year, which is going to be AI.
Right.
So we're in alpha with AI at the moment. We've been in alpha since last September. So we run our whole business on FYI, and we're seeing some significant gains from AI. But what's really important is structured data. We've got that with documents. We automatically tag all of the documents that come into the system. Any documents you create, they're tagged with the year, the work type, the job, the client, every bit of information. So being able to extract that information using AI is really important. So we've got the structured data. The context, FYI, data model, completely customizable, custom fields, but also that data for the context, filling in information from Hughes sign, BGL company secretarial, Zero practice manager, CCH practice. We're bringing all that data into one location with structured document data, all the client information that you'd want, and then being able to run AI over the top of it. And the really clever part of it is the automation engine. You write the prompts because there's different skill levels with how good people are at writing prompts. And there was a lot of talk about that last week at Alternative Tech Summit, which was a cracking event. But the skill levels of writing prompts, it varies. So get somebody that's really bloody good at writing prompts to write the prompt in the automation engine, and then when the data changes or a date gets hit, that font
Did make it messages all the time. Yeah.
this information.
And that is like the almost like the holy grail, isn't it? Of how we can make the use of AI and practices so much more fundamentally baked into day-to-day use cases, right? Well, on that bombshell, Ian, I think we'll leave it there. So thank you very much for your time. I'm sure we'll see each other in the next few events, and it's going to be a busy few weeks and months, right?
Yeah, I hope so, John. But thanks very much for coming over and talking. Really good. Really enjoyed it.
Okay, so I am joined by Nickel AI Thompson from Jenesys. CEO, founder, and we're here on the Jenesys stand. We're pretty much at the death knell of Fab after 2 days. Been pretty busy, right? And Nikolai, how have you found it?
It's been good. It's been really good. We've tell you what, we've seen a lot of people are all talking about QuickBooks at the moment. So that's we've actually decided today to change the priority because we're live with QuickBooks in the US.
Right.
So QuickBooks UK has been bumped up the priority list.
Cool.
We've had a lot of people, over the last couple of years, people have been like, so like, what's this? Or like, how does the AI? What is all this about? But this year the conversations have been a bit different. People are like, they're a little bit more open. It's almost like everyone took what we talked about yesterday on the panel of like, don't work out what the problem is. Like, what do you actually like want as at the other end of this whole process? So I've actually really enjoyed some of the everyone's been like that, but some of the conversations about, well, what service line do you want to grow the most? Like, what type of revenue do you most want in the business? And I think a lot more people must have been thinking about that this year, 2025. So it's encouraging. I think there's a lot more optimism, despite some of the like macro crap that's going on in the world, in the country. But
I think that's just there's a level of maturity in the debate, I guess, right? About AI has changed. And also I think people like yourselves have managed to get something tangible into the marketplace. I remember that big thing that you did at DAS where you showed off the product, right? You had people like out the door almost. But like, I think until people really get their hands on something or see something tangible, you go, all right, I can really latch onto that because I can conceptually get that, right? That's really important.
Yeah, it's reinforced why we've put so much effort into, just like there's the application layer, there's the interface that everybody needs to interact with, like what's going on behind us. I don't know if you can see anything, but there's the application layer, and then there's such a temptation for companies that are going to add AI to, well, what we're going to do is we're going to ship off all the data to a third party and then bring back, because when they bring that back, it then populates logic that's already been coded in the back end. We realized in about October of 2023, it's not going to work. It's not going to scale, because we decided very, very early on we were going to be technical first. We're going to figure out how to get the basics consistent. Because our objective has always been to move this service close to real time as possible. Because when this is real time, the accountants, the technology that is layered on top starts to understand the financial position of a business like now. Not because everyone panics about getting their bookkeeping up to date before VAT return. So there's still a little bit of a journey, but and we think it's going to take about another 12 months. I'll be straight up. Another 12 months, Jack will have learned some of the nuances around managing deferred income with your AR, and then getting into your journals, so your fixed asset register, into your accruals.
Obviously, I guess this is a great audience for you guys as well, right? Because it's got a mixture of bookkeepers, small accountants, larger accounting firms as well. So kind of like your perfect market, right in the breadbasket for you.
Yeah, what we're probably a little bit too early on in terms of perfect market fit is, so we don't have self-serve.
Okay.
You can't go onto our website, and there's been some people that have complained about I can't go to your website and just play around with it. I'm like, it's because it's not a tool. You don't go to a job board and pick someone and have a play around and decide whether they're going to be a good fit.
Yeah. And maybe that requires a new way of thinking, possibly, in this age of AI, right? It's
in the age of AI, when you expect it to be able to, if you expect to retain control of both the data from a security point of view and how it learns and how it actually does the job, and you want it to be accurate on a client-by-client basis, which you hire a human to enforce with varying degrees of quality, but then you actually need to train it. And so onboarding with the generative AI products is now more about understanding the training process and being able to see what actually the logic is that AI makes. And so we've got really good at spotting how Jack works. Our team, that's why we launched a couple of weeks ago, and there's been amazing conversations here about Jack Pod, of just for what we think is the first time where the technology, the people, and the playbooks that represent the service design, the service wrap around that, is all provided by a single person like us. And bringing that together has meant that we have written a completely new operational and technical playbook to assist this new way of doing bookkeeping, as we've taken the first step of the human transitioning from being an operator of a tool, tap, 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 to an analyst that's validating decisions and actually training and playing that role and elevating human.
That real oversight.
Yeah. Again, I come back to no one really wants to get into our industry to do data entry.
Yeah. Although some people like it. I mean, maybe that's again is a change in mindset thing. Maybe
it is. There's a lot of that, but we also know that the next generation and the generation after that, we are an industry that have to fight for our share of really intelligent people that are going to move businesses forward and care about clients who sometimes don't always appreciate the value that a great accountant brings.
Yeah, agreed. So we're in the midst of event season. Some people were lucky enough to be at Alternative last week, and now we've got this week, and we've got DAS in a couple of weeks, and then Accountex obviously, and a whole myriad of other things that'll be going around in the periphery of things. So what are you particularly looking forward to, for the next couple of months?
Well, DAS for us is the show that we've made quite a big investment in, not just in being able to turn up, but also something that we're going to release.
Sneaky, I like it.
So we're sponsors of the demo stage. So you're going to see Jack everywhere. And I'm on stage with a fabulous group of people. I think around 3 or 3:30 on day one. But at 4:30, demo stage 1, there will be a reveal, and just before that, we've got a show takeover. It's actually quite fun. We're gonna have a 60-second video to inspire and just kind of show how we see the future, like the part that we want to play, how we want to partner with you. And did you see the OpenAI Super Bowl ad?
I did, yeah.
I'll say no more.
Well, I think on that bombshell, Nikolai, perfect time to leave it there. So thank you very much. I will see you in a few weeks
again, John.
And congratulations. We're getting this product out there and into the market. And I know you've done a huge amount of work on this and testing, development, etc., etc. And there's going to be more and more to come, right? It's just never ending. You just get on the treadmill and just keep going.
Definitely. See you, Daz.
Awesome. Thanks, mate. Well, thank you as ever for joining the podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. All the usual hits, tricks, and news and interviews, etc. that you'd expect. As always, we'd love you to rate the podcast, share with any feedback that you've got, and any ideas for the future. We'd love to cover them. And any topics you want us to discuss or to cover on the podcast, we're always interested in your feedback. So please do let us know, and we look forward to being here on the next one with you.